What does it look like when you get beyond thriving? A lot of people probably think, okay, what a crazy question, right? Because we've been sort of taught our whole lives that thrive is the goal, right? We want to get out of survive, we want to thrive. Well, here at Five Ives, we actually have something that goes beyond that, and we'll talk about what that looks like today.
Welcome to Returning to Us podcast, the podcast where we help people who help people.
Burnout, stress, disconnection, we've all been there.
But what if there was a way back to balance? Here at Five Ives, we blend cutting-edge research with practical strategies to help you move out of survival mode into clarity, calm, and lasting resilience.
What does it look like when you get beyond thriving? A lot of people probably think, okay, what a crazy question, right? Because we've been sort of taught our whole lives that thrive is the goal, right? We want to get out of survive, we want to thrive. Well, here at Five Ives, we actually have something that goes beyond that, and we'll talk about what that looks like today. And if you haven't listened to our other videos, we go through each of the five Ives, the 5 stages of healing. And we're going to talk through that really briefly and just kind of share with you what the stages look like. And then today is all about Hive, which is the 5th Ive. The first stage is survive, and we all know what that feels like, what it means to be in a survival state. Things are overwhelming, it's hard, it's chaotic, we don't know what to do. Maybe there's been a trauma or chronic stress or some big trigger in your life that has caused you to feel like you're in survive. And we at Five Ives talk a lot about how people kind of want to jump straight from that to thrive. It's like, just tell me what I need to do, right? Give me it today. What can I do to thrive? But that's just not reality. It's not realistic. And so the next stage after survive is actually revive, where you do the work to heal. You're working on your heart, you're working on regulation, you're working on trying to get to the bottom of why you're feeling the way you are as you kind of come out of survival state. You need to be able to heal. All of us need that. And so that's really revive is kind of that start of the healing process. After that, we go into strive, which is where we start making plans. We can't really make great plans for the future when things are really, really hard and everything is falling apart. And so strive is really the stage where individually or organizationally, we're making plans for the future. And then the next stage is thrive, which is where most people think they just want to stay forever, right? Like, I want to be in a state where things are going well, I'm living the dream. And that's what we want for you too. We do want you to thrive. But what we learned as we started studying trauma and things that are difficult, and as people kind of come out of it, what does success really look like in the long term? What we started realizing was actually most people don't stop there. They get out of that and go into what we call Hive. And that's what today is all about. And so buckle up, because we're going to talk a little bit today about how do we live life after things start going really well? What's beyond thrive, and how do we get there? So, Lauren, first, let's step back a little bit and tell people about thrive, because I think you have to go through thrive to be able to hive well. So remind us, what does it look like or feel like when we're in a thrive state?
Yeah, and this all goes back to, for any of you that are familiar with like nervous system theory and polyvagal theory, like we kind of move through these stages of like, I am not okay, I feel really dysregulated, I put these practices in place, I get re-regulated, okay, I'm good, but you're good-ish. We want to, once you get regulated, like work on ways to stay regulated. And then once you're regulated and you find ways to stay regulated, like community, connection, people, hiving is what really solidifies that you are there, you are staying there, you'll be kept there. So it's a safety net of a sorts. So thrive, when you get to thrive state, our 4th of the 5th Ives, you are kind of, I wouldn't say you're healed, but you're feeling good. Like your body feels good. You don't feel so tense. You are thinking more clearly. You're thinking more logically, rationally. You're even like able to create plans for the future and make goals and act upon your goals and like put micro steps in place to achieve those goals. You're able to reflect on those goals, and you're even able to do things that are more preventative. Like you can work on coping mechanisms that keep you in a thrive state instead of just reacting to falling back and survive and then doing the things to get you back up to thrive again. So you're staying in a more stable state more frequently.
Yeah. That's so good. And I think most people, we kind of know when we get there. Like you can feel it. Lauren and I talk a lot about, as people who do this work, sometimes things come up in our lives that kind of send us back into a survival state. But we know that we're in thrive, truly in thrive, and not actually back in survive because we have the tools to get us out more quickly. And that's not to say that things aren't hard for us, right? I mean, things are hard. Life is hard and it's always going to be there. But thrive is really a state where you're no longer stuck
Yep.
in survive. Like you're not, you have tools, you have resources, you have strategies, and you are more often than not doing better. Again, there's going to be things that are hard in life, and we just want everybody to know that it's okay. Like it's okay if you feel like, wait a minute, I thought I was doing really well and this thing happened and things are crazy. When crazy things happen, we expect life to be crazy. So don't feel like we're telling you you can't be in thrive if things are hard. But when we do hit that thrive state, things are going really well. We're learning how to cope with the hard things. We are much more healed. We're feeling good. There's this innate desire in us to start connecting with others. And so, Hive, the fifth Ive of the five Ives, remember, if you can't remember, so survive, revive, strive, thrive, and hive. Hive is the last. This is really where you are ready to connect with others in whatever you're doing. For us, we talk a lot about trauma care. And so in this space, this is often the people that are helping other people through healing. So whether like as an organization, you guys are taking on other organizations in like a mentorship capacity, maybe you're a foster care agency and now you're helping the police learn trauma-informed practices. That would be an example of hiving. Or as an individual, maybe this is you just connecting with other people that have been through the experience you've been through, and you're trying to, help them walk through it, or you guys are walking through it together. These are examples of what hive might look like. We talked about what thrive kind of feels like. Lauren, how do people know when they're ready to kind of move into hive? Like how might they feel? What might be going on in their life where they might know, oh, this is an indication that I'm actually ready for this, for that social connection.
And we can break this down. Like, what does it look like person wise, and what does it look like organization wise? So for me personally, I know I've moved into Thrive State and I'm ready to go into Hive because I'm like, okay, I actually feel like I have a little bit of time. Like I knew for myself when I moved across the country to Arizona, I was like, whoa, there's so much going on. There's so many changes. Like I'm a little bit overwhelmed with all these move across the country and work changes. And it's like, I'm in a little bit of a state of survival, and I kind of moved back up into Thrive, and I started to get grounded and stabilized. And then there was a point, maybe like 2 years in, I was like, hey, I'm ready to start making a network out here. I'm going to start make a community. And I started to reach out to church and groups and networking. And I started to feel like I had the space and the energy and the capacity to do that. So I'm like, oh, hey, I'm in the Hive State because I actually want to, I have motivation for, I have time and space and energy for creating community, creating connections, going out and networking with people. And I'm much more of like an introverted person. Like I do very extroverted things, but I get my energy and like my restore of energy from introverted like things. So to go into groups of people, although I do very much enjoy it, it definitely is not something that gives me energy. So I need to like go back in, get the energy, go out. So the fact that I knew that I was ready to meet with groups of people and connect, I was like, okay, I am in that Hive State. So that's what it looks like individually. Jessica, what do you think about like organizationally?
Yeah. So organizationally, this is like you're no longer on that like crazy hamster wheel, right? So you know that you're in thrive. And I would say again, it's about capacity. Do you have the capacity as an organization now that things are going well? Your hair's not on fire every day. You're not running around trying to put out fires here and there and everywhere. Like things are good. Things feel good. Things feel right. Organizationally, you're healthy. You're still like in this thrive state, you're always going to be making changes, right? We're always trying to become healthier, learn more as an organization about how to do things better, but you'll know because you have the capacity for it. like you feel ready. And also, I would say in a business setting or, organizationally, maybe you're a church, a nonprofit, a hospital, a social work agency, you'll also start to notice like there's opportunities that are kind of coming up where you think, oh, like I want to help those people. So I gave the example earlier of like maybe you're a foster care agency and you do a ton of work with the police, and it just keeps kind of coming up like, hey, this actually could be like a really great opportunity for us to pass along some of the stuff that we are learning. And you feel ready and like you have the capacity to kind of invite those people in. And so I think capacity is probably like the word of the day, because we have to have the capacity for helping others. But I think a good analogy is like when you're on an airplane and they're like, if the oxygen mask drops, you have to give yourself oxygen first and then help the person next to you. And those people are like, well, obviously I would help the person next to me first, but that's how people die, right? Like we have to take care of ourselves first and then help the person next to us. This is why we instruct people to do that. Well, organizationally, that's the same thing. Like if you try to hive too early, you're going to feel it because you don't have the capacity, because things inside the organization still don't feel right. You're still trying to put on the oxygen mask. You're still trying to support the work that your organization is doing. And if you try to take on hiving too early, you're going to feel depleted. You don't have the right energy. Things aren't right, and you're going to feel it. And I do think a lot of the agencies that we work with probably do this a lot, where you're out there, you're connecting, and you have to, right? You have to network, you have to meet people. Like this is just kind of a part of the helping profession, is this networking, connection, working with other agencies. But I do find that the organizations that do this healing work first are going to be in a much better place as they try to go out and make connections with others.
Yep. Yeah.
Let's talk about hiving. What does that look like? Right? Like we want to make good connections. Can we do that though, just like willy-nilly, or should we put some like parameters in place? Like what does it look like to make good hiving practices as you're trying to like go out there and make connections? You're thriving organizationally or personally, like things are good, but like how should people do this?
I think that's going to depend person to person, organization to organization. Like, how's your organization structured? How big is it? How small is it? Like, we're gonna run you through a couple different examples here, like organizationally, what this could look like, because we are involved in a few different ways of how this is looking, and we both experienced a few different ways of how this exists. So one of the groups that we work with is an early childhood group, and they have done this beautifully, and they have been doing this work that we are working on them with for a little while. So they have the space and the capacity to do this because they built themselves out of survival into thrive. So now they have this multi-tier model where they have, their leadership is trained and being trained. Beneath their leadership, they have this mentor model. So they have these educators that are mentoring new educators or young educators or people new into the field, or even like support staff. And then you've got your, tier down, which is like people have just come in, people that are newer, they get trained as well because they implement with the patient, the client, the kids, whoever it is. So they've got these like tiers. And what our work is with them is like coming in and training each tier. But in our work and training those tiers is to help each tier kind of filter down and train the tier beneath them. So it's like this waterfall effect where we're training all the tiers, but while we're simultaneously training all the tiers, they are training each other and working, to train and lift each other. So like that type of model, really, really cool. Can everyone do that? Well, not necessarily, because maybe everyone doesn't have that type of structure in their program, or maybe they're too big, or maybe they're too small, but that works really well for this organization.
Right. Yeah. And I think they're healthy too, because this organization didn't force it. So they weren't like, we're going to hive everybody now, like get in your groups, let's connect. We're all going to, I think oftentimes like hiving and this connection stuff, organizations try to kind of force it on people too quickly, because they're like, all right, we need to, like you said, we need to mentor, we need to train, we need to do all these things. And what I really like about that particular organization and the person who's leading all this stuff, she's been so thoughtful about it, is, okay, we are going to invite people into this. We're going to provide some incentives. And for the first few years, these programs are not going to be required for these people. And so what they did was they started building sort of over time this hive that's kind of being added on to every year, where people, they were given support, they were given incentives to participate, they were given resources for the trauma care work that they're doing. And now word's getting out that it's working, and people want to do it because they're like, oh my gosh, this is so wonderful.
Yep.
And so it's not totally organic, right? I mean, it was definitely planned, it was thought out well. But I think as we're thinking about hiving, it's like really healthy to think through, what does this look like? Are we forcing people to do something they don't want to do or they don't enjoy? Like, please, oh my gosh, I'm also an introvert. One of the worst things that I've always, like, I experienced this whenever I was teaching, is they would make you do these like horrible icebreakers with people. And like those types of things, like those types of like forced connections for introverts, it's like, oh, I could just like curl up into a ball. Like, do not make me stand up and flap my arms around or do anything crazy or be like, hello, everybody. Like, they always make you do this crazy stuff. Like, try to keep in mind that as we're hiving and we're trying to connect with people, we still want to care for them as individuals. And so it can be hard, especially organizationally, thinking through this. We kind of try to force people into things that are maybe like a little too like uncomfortable or a little too forced. We want, like this organization we were just talking about, we want it to feel more organic, even if it's planned.
And that was such a like that organization, super intentional. Years of like
Yes.
organizing this, putting it into place, like thinking it through. You can still have a hive based model. You can still have an almost like train the trainer based model. It doesn't need to be that formal. We've worked with organizations that like we work with them a couple weeks, we give them the information. That like wrap up at the end, like send off is, okay, how do you take all the information that you've learned in the last 12 weeks? How do you implement it? What does an implementation plan look like? We map out with them, what does an implementation plan look like? And in that implementation plan, essentially an action plan, how are you sharing this information with others? Like, how are you not necessarily like intentional formal plan mapping out how you are training the trainer, but how every day are you introducing micro bits of information to your colleagues, to your team, and how are you more organically, more naturally training the trainer? So there's that option too. Like, it doesn't have to be so formal and intentional. It can look like that too, especially if it's like a smaller organization.
Yeah, I love that. And I think personally, so some people watching this or listening in are going to think, okay, but like, what does this look like for me personally? And I think oftentimes some of the most meaningful connections that we get are ones that were made in a more informal setting. Like, what, okay, organizationally, oftentimes we have to have meetings, like teachers, I don't know what they call them wherever you were, but professional learning communities, PLCs, like I can't tell you how many teachers hate these things because they feel really forced and they have this forced list of things to do. But when you go, I actually did some research when I was in my PhD program. My advisor was doing a lot of really amazing work around like communities of practice. And oftentimes the best communities are ones that people intentionally place themselves into. And so, I love the example of teachers because so often teachers are finding community in places where they're intentionally seeking it out. Like, they're looking for teachers that have like similar interests, similar goals, similar content that they're teaching. And then they kind of like get together and they form their own little hives and they're working together and they're doing all these amazing things. So, on a personal level, you don't even have to have an organization that is forcing you into it. It may be a mom's group at church. It might be a group of neighbors that you have where you guys meet up and you're walking and you're just talking through mom life and the struggles and the triumphs and all the beautiful things. And, when you think about Hive, thinking personally, oftentimes this does look more informal, although there can be formal groups that you can be a part of as an individual that may form a hive. So we don't want you to like discount that. I just think, like Lauren said, informal can sometimes be better.
Yeah.
What are some cautions, Lauren, when people think about going out into the world and hiving, right? Like what advice would you give someone who's like, okay, I think I'm ready. I'm going to connect. I'm going to go out, especially I would say an individual who has come out of a place that's difficult. They're healing, they're ready, they feel like they can take on that connection piece to kind of be a mentor or a coach, or even just that like deep social connection that they've been looking for. What should we caution them against?
I think sometimes biologically we're so eager to connect that we want to race through these steps and we want to get to Hive and we're like, I want to connect, I want to, and then the helper types, which a lot of helper types come out of spaces of healing. Like usually it's it's the healing that has put you in a place where like, okay, now I really want to help people. Like I've gone through this hard thing. I want to help people, and we want to get there really fast, and we're so eager to do that. It's such a beautiful thing. Like it's healers that have healed people. Like what an awesome thing to do with your hurt. And also when we are fresh out of a healing state and we're fresh out of like survival, revival, and all of our stages up to thrive and into Hive, sometimes when we jump into that Hive state and we do like mentorships or we run programs, especially programs related to healing, it can be triggering. It can bring back memories that you thought you had dealt with, or things that were hard that have resurfaced and you maybe weren't expecting. You didn't prepare. You thought you were good. And maybe sometimes you are good. I think just some self-awareness, some frequent checking in with yourself. Like, how am I actually feeling? Like, what is going on? Do I feel like I'm regressing at all? And not that regressing is the 5 Ives are a continuum. These are stages and steps that we go through and float back through, and none of them are wrong. It is not wrong to be in survival. You're not good enough. You are not doing okay if you're in survival state. That is a normal functioning of our body and our brain. Our body puts us there to get us back out, to revive us. Like that is how the body works. So don't feel like any stage is wrong. But sometimes we do want to move so fast through these stages, and we want to get to Hive, and we jump into healing work, and we jump into helping work, and we jump into mentorship, and it was all so fast that we didn't like stabilize, and we didn't check in with ourselves, and we just kind of move through and move beyond and bypass the emotion that we're feeling. And then we're like, I'm triggered, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I've overcommitted, I've said yes to many things, and then we fall back into survival. Our over helping put us back in a survival state. So just check in with yourself. How am I feeling? Did I overcommit? Did I say yes to too much? I mean, is this too early? I mean, I've done this where I'm like, can't wait to volunteer with this group, and I'm like, reach out to the group, and I'm volunteering, and I was like, oh, I committed to every week. And I just wanted to step into it, and I fully jumped into it, and I felt like I couldn't set a boundary because they needed help, and I felt like I needed to help them, and reality was I had to step back because I overcommitted too early. And I knew that because I checked in with myself, and I'm like, okay, I overcommitted too early. I have to go back and say, I'm so sorry, I still want to help, but I got to scale back a little bit. I got to be honest with myself because I don't want to send myself into a survival state. So just check in with yourself.
Yeah, I love that. Like giving yourself permission as you step out into that space to, if you feel like, oh, I made a mistake, like I overcommitted, or this is the wrong group for me, or whatever it is, give yourself grace for that and take care of yourself, and be willing to establish boundaries even if you didn't have them up front, etc. And then also, I would just give one little caution, which is like, be careful who you let into your hive. And I say this because if you've been through healing and things are looking good and you feel ready to go out and to start making more social connections, and you're looking to help other people and you're growing and things are great, oftentimes I find people who have kind of had like friends or family along the way who they know maybe weren't the healthiest people, but it's maybe like a family member or a friend that you've known for a really long time, etc. Those people kind of like still allow those people to be a part of that hive and that inner circle. And oftentimes those people end up drawing you backwards. So I've had a lot of friends who have left abusive situations. And as they start reaching back out and they start kind of forming their own hive and they're growing, a lot of times they have maybe like a sibling who also is in an abusive situation. And that person isn't speaking truth to them because they're not ready yet to like acknowledge the truth of their situation. And so I've seen it so many times where my friends get like bogged down by somebody who isn't in a healed place. And I'm not saying to not reach out, to not connect, to not help people grow. But the people that are in your personal hive and in your circle, those people, if they are not healed, you either need to acknowledge that they're not healed and just sort of like take their advice for what it is, or to not have them in your inner circle. Like, I think those are really the two options, is like, are you in a place where you can hear their advice and the things they're saying to you that may be hurtful or difficult? And you can say, okay, I know they're not in a place of healing and I'm going to help them. Or if you're like, that's too much for me right now, then it's okay to say, like, put boundaries on those relationships and just say, like, that this just isn't a time for me to engage in this conversation. Or if we continue talking about this, I'm not going to be able to spend time with you. Like, it's okay to put boundaries around that. But I do think who you let into your hive matters. And then, like, organizationally, again, just some cautions around just be mindful of how you're establishing these hive connections. Be mindful of the organizations you're connecting with, how you're structuring these things. And as you start trying some things, if you find those things aren't working, don't double down on the things that aren't working. I see this a lot too, where organizations will kind of invest in a connection, a relationship, a partnership, and things aren't working, but they're like, well, we've already established it this way, so we're just going to press on this direction. It's like with Hive, if you don't want to send yourself back into a spiral where you're just, now you're back in survive again and things are really difficult, just keep reevaluating those partnerships, those relationships, and make sure that you have the supports in place you need for it to be good. So let's just recap really fast. Hive, we're feeling good. We're in a healed place. We are ready to go out there and make social connections in the world. We want to be careful, make sure we are actually in a place where we have the support we need to go out there and do this work with others, to mentor, to train, to connect, to be social. And if you didn't watch the other videos, so maybe you're sitting here and you're like, how do you get to that place, right? I want to be healed. I want support. I want to grow. We would encourage you to go all the way back to the beginning. Go watch. We'll actually link it below, the video on Survive. Go watch the video. Survive, Revive, Strive, Thrive. Come back to Hive and watch it again if you want. And we encourage you to kind of think through, how can I get to this place where I'm ready for healing and growth and being able to hive with others? So if you haven't done that, go do that now. And until next time, take care of yourself.